Double Dragon has a special place in my heart. You see, it was the first arcade game that I fell in love with as a child. And I remember as a 9-year-old kid going by arcades and begging my mom for just even 1/4 so that I could play Double Dragon. And so the years went by and I forgot about Double Dragon and the NES trilogy, which I was a big fan of. And it wasn't until much later that I rediscovered Double Dragon through emulation, and I remember loading up Double Dragon into MAME 32 and then playing it and thinking, oh my god, I haven't played this since I was a kid. It's been over 15 years. This is what I played as a child. This is what I did when I was 9 years old. And it's at this point that I took the opportunity to play Double Dragon 2 and Double Dragon 3, the Rosetta Stone. Double Dragon 2 was decent, I liked it, and I remember loading up Double Dragon 3 into MAME 32 and just thinking, wow, this is going to be great, right? Wrong. Alright, let me just cut to the chase. This game is a complete disgrace to gaming, beat-em-ups, and above all else, Double Dragon. I never imagined that there could be an arcade game that was inferior to its NES port until I played this. For starters, the fighting scheme is absolutely horrible, and to illustrate this point, we must remember that Double Dragon set the standard for beat-em-ups. The original Double Dragon featured a plethora of moves to use against your opponents. You had basic moves like punches and kicks, and then you had more advanced moves like the hair pull kick, reverse jump kick, and the mighty elbow. The sequel carried on this tradition and even added a hurricane kick. But what did they do for Double Dragon 3? They took everything that made Double Dragon great and just threw it out the window. No headbutt, no elbow, no reverse spin kick, not even the hair pull kick. I mean, even the NES version had the hair pull kick. And to make things worse, they replaced these moves with some of the most asinine moves you've seen in a beat 'em up ever. The first of these moves is a clothesline, which is merely a redundant version of the jump kick. You have to run to execute it, and it's just generally pointless. The second move is the backdrop. This one isn't so bad. You walk behind someone who's catching their breath, and well, there you go. The last move is the jumping knee. Here you have an enemy on the ground and you jump on them. This is cool and all, but if you want to perform a jump kick and there's a fallen enemy nearby, you'll end up jumping on him instead of performing the intended jump kick. Nevertheless, these moves are inferior to the moves in previous games and contributes to one of the worst fighting schemes in a beat 'em up ever. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there. Remember how the NES version had a spin kick and a flip throw? Well, the arcade version also has these moves. There's just one problem. You have to go into these stores at the beginning of the level and buy them. Yes, 1/4 for the spin kick and 1 for the flip throw. I have never seen such a bad scheme to drain kids of their quarters. And to top that off, once you die, you lose the moves. One important component of Double Dragon that they totally screwed up in this game are the weapons. Double Dragon allowed you to pick up dropped weapons so that you could use them against your enemies. In Double Dragon 3, however, you have to go into the store and buy them. That's right, you have to burn a quarter to use a weapon. And you'd think that the weapon would be helpful, but it's not. Take this nunchuck for instance. It has absolutely no range, unlike weapons in other Double Dragon games. And if that wasn't enough, you can't use any other moves while equipped with a weapon. In other Double Dragon games, you can use some of the other moves while armed, but here you can only use the weapon until you drop it. Ultimately, the weapons in this game are so useless that after 5 seconds, you let the enemy hit you so that you can be rid of it. Like in the NES version, you can play as other characters. In the arcade version, you have to buy extra lives in the store in order to use them. After you die as Billy, the extra character will appear and then you can play as him. The only problem is that they suck. This first guy, Ronnie, isn't so bad. He's a big guy with a decently ranged kick, but these other two, however, are just absolutely worthless. I mean, look at this guy Simey, or whatever his name is. He's just pathetically bad. This clumsy oaf is about as fast as a turtle, his attacks have no range, and his jump kick rarely hits twice. This next guy, Masao, isn't much better with his no-range jump kick. In any case, don't even bother wasting your quarters on these useless characters. The last problem with this game are cheap bosses. Take for instance a level 3 boss. After kicking his ass, he clones himself and then he and his clones proceed to rape you. Yeah, a ninja who clones himself. Yeah, that's real original. Level 4 is even worse. Here you fight this gladiator with a pike, and if you try to jump kick or clothesline him, he just blocks it with his shield. And if you try to get a punch or a kick combo in, he disrupts it with his own attack. And if that wasn't enough, you have to rematch him on the next level, where in addition to his cheap tactics, you have to contend with this flying razor disc that hits you over and over. It's impossible to try to dodge this thing, and this goddamn razor will hit you again and again and again and again, over and over and over and over, all while trying to fight this cheap boss. Crippled fighting scheme, cheap bosses, useless weapons, and shitty characters all come together to form this pathetic excuse for a game. This game is a complete disgrace to the Double Dragon series, and every day I am thankful that the makers of the NES version didn't have their heads up their asses like the makers of this. And it's a complete travesty that thousands of Double Dragon fans pumped in their quarters to play this piece of shit. Double Dragon 3 is not even worth the electricity required to play it, let alone the floor space in a public arcade. And I am thankful, every day of my life, that I did not encounter this piece of shit as a child. Because every quarter wasted playing this thing is one less quarter spent playing a game that was actually worth it. That concludes this presentation. Peace out.